Welcome to the Post Shift Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. This week's episode is proudly sponsored by Bar Green Ellington for all your restaurant and bar needs. Visit bargreen.com for the full portfolio. What is happening, Post Shift? Welcome back to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. I've been thinking about doing this for a while now. I reflect a lot. If you've ever listened to any of my episodes or seen anything I put on social media, I reflect a lot. I probably reflect more than I probably should. Sometimes it's negative, but most of the time it just comes out pretty positive, and I get a lot of feedback from that, from people. And so today I wanted to do a letter to myself, I suppose. I started this industry when I was 18, 19 years old, and I'm going on 41 this year. So it's been a number of years, and working with a lot of younger bartenders now, I'm starting to feel like it's time for me to really understand where I stand. And so I thought, well, why not write a letter to my younger self? And because I'm not a massive writer, like I do like writing, but I don't like to write articles usually. I thought I'd just do it in a point form for a podcast. So this is letters to my younger self. Now, it's just for me right now, but I know that this is going to resonate with a lot of younger bartenders out there who listen to the podcast on a regular basis. So number one's always the easy one. Take your time. You have tons and tons of times. I look back at like when I opened up Little Jumbo when I was 33. I was 32 at the time. And so I'm looking at less than 10 years ago. And I look at what I did before Little Jumbo at Clive's for 4 years. And I look at that 3 years before I did Clive's at Moxie's since I arrived here in Canada when I was 26. And I look back and I'm like, I have a lot of time. Like I feel good at 40, and I probably could feel better, but I feel good at 40. And so taking your time, you've got time. You don't need to achieve anything. Like if I look back, I always wanted to open my own restaurant by the time I was 30, but I look back now and like, I didn't know jack shit by the time I was 30. Like the stuff I know now, like I still don't think I know everything, but taking your time is the biggest one. And I talk about this a lot, patience and that sort of stuff. Number 2 of the 10, travel as much as possible. This is something I didn't do as a young bartender. Being in Australia, it's a little bit more difficult to travel around the world because you're so far away from everything. But I didn't really travel enough to Sydney and Melbourne and visit those bar scenes. I was always sort of caught up in work and pushing myself a little bit too much. I didn't travel as much as I wish I had. And that's perfect. Number 3, don't work too much. Balancing enough work-life balance when you're young is very, very important. If you've got a mentor, which I'm trying to champion right now, a better work-life balance for my staff, that sort of forces you to do work-life balance. I think it's a big, big thing, but self-regulating your work-life balance is something that's super, super important. So don't work too much. Go travel, go enjoy yourself, have fun with friends, go camping. I didn't do a lot of that when I was younger. I was so focused on work. Don't try to appeal to anyone else. Number 4. I've talked about my father and I've talked about my mother, and I always was trying to make them proud. And then I left home when I was 17, like 17, 18, I left home under experimenting or whatever the word is, under bad circumstances. So I did all this work during high school and during my time growing up in my teenage years to try and appease my parents. And I still appease my parents to a certain degree even now, but don't try and appeal to anybody else. Don't try and appeal to your boss. Just try and make sure that the things you're doing are what you want to do to make yourself happy. This is a very, very big one, and I champion that as much as possible. Number 5, take more risks. I suppose I did, but I didn't take enough risks. Like I moved to Canada without a job and did that for a girl, which was just weird. But you take more risks. You can bounce back a lot harder. Like don't think out things. Up until you're 30, don't overthink things. Just grind it out. Just grind out, make a risk, fall down, get back up, take more risks. It's going to help you in the long run 110%. Bouncing back and being resilient is something that can be ingrained, but it really needs to be tested sometimes. And so I really want you to do that. Take more risks. Number 6, you never know as much as you think you do. I talked about that earlier. Like the stuff I learned from when I left Little Jumbo, the stuff that I've learned in the last 2 years, the stuff I've taught myself during COVID, I'm glad that I can keep learning stuff. I'm glad that I keep learning new things from these younger bartenders and these bartenders in this industry, people that are pushing the envelope more and more. So I'm glad that I can still have an open mind to that sort of thing. I never think I know as much as I think I do. And so like regardless of where you're at in your career, there's someone out there that's always better. My mom always said, regardless of how good you get, there's always someone out there better. Number 7, hang out with your friends more. This is a big one. As you get older, you get caught up in family, you get caught up in work, you get caught up in life in general. You got to make time for your friends, and you got to make time for your friends and yourself. And that sort of goes back to don't work too much. Like, you got to hang out with your friends more. Like, your friends are something that's important. And when you're 22, 23, your friends are super important. You carve out tons of time for them. But as you get older, it gets a little bit less. Because everybody gets busy. And next thing you know, you're 40 something, and you've only got a handful of really good friends, and you feel a little bit lonely. Number 8, talk to professionals more often. Wow. I wrote that down, and I didn't look over my list before I started this. But if you're having issues with your mental health, if you're having issues with dealing with every day, especially during COVID, has been horrible. And I'm gonna say this more to the male population of the hospitality industry, because I think that there's a massive issue and a massive gap between male bartenders and male industry people talking to a therapist, talking to a counselor, to help them get better and to help them deal with a lot of stuff. I don't do it as much as I should. And so I've made this list sort of as like, if I had started doing this when I was 20, I might be in a better position right now. But look, talking to a professional more often is something that, finding the right professional as well. Find this person who connects with you and understands what you're going through. I've had therapists in the past that are definitely much more like giving you the answers you want to hear. I don't need that because I already do that in my head. But finding someone who really connects with you on a completely different level that you never thought of. But if you're having mental health issues, especially drinking, and if you're a male who thinks that it's not masculine to go and see someone, please do. And that secondary would be like taking medication. If you need medication for anxiety and depression, take it. It's not a bad thing. It's not a societal, ooh, you can't do that. Just do it to make yourself feel better. Number 9, perfect segue. Look after yourself more often. Look after yourself more. Exercising, mental health, everything that you can do to physically look after yourself. Your body will start breaking on you. And I laugh because I know at my age, I haven't looked after well myself. Again, it goes back to me just grinding out work and just putting everything on the table at all times. And I'm having some issues when it comes to my knees, my hips, my ankles, that sort of thing on busy nights. And I don't bounce back the way I used to. I wish I could bounce back like I used to 10 years ago. But working a bar shift, I definitely cold shower it up the next morning just so I can get moving for the day. So look after yourself a little bit more. Exercise, make time for that, play sports. Not too many sports. Like, I don't go contact sports. Like, that can really hurt your career, but anything. But look after yourself a bit more. And the last and final point for all my young bartenders and myself, looking back over 20 years, everything's going to be all right. You know, at the end of the day, if you've got a roof over your head and you've got a job with money in your pocket, everything is going to be all right. There are plenty of people out there that with a lot less and with a lot worse positions than you are in. And so at the end of the day, take a breath, take some stock, chat to people who may be able to help you, and then know that the next day is going to be a brand new day and everything will be all right. And on that note, letters to a young bartender from me. Thanks as always for the support, guys. I'm always 100% grateful for everything that you guys do for me. Cheers. Have a good week. Hope that the customers are treating you well. I hope COVID restrictions are rolling back nicely for you. Hopefully you have a great weekend. I'll chat to you real soon. Bye. Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.